Don't judge yourself that you don't have a story, because I know for the fact that you have a story. Write it down. Write everything and anything that you can remember. And while you're writing, you will figure out why you've been doing certain things in your life and how they're going to impact your business and your life. Hey, this is Iman Agay, serial entrepreneur, international speaker, and a best-selling author. And today's question for me is, I know I should be telling my story, but I don't feel like I have one. And this is very common between the speakers, especially the speakers who are starting new, like it's been speaking only for 3-4 years, or maybe even shorter, or even longer. I've heard this a lot from speakers. And they say like, okay, Iman, we understand that speaking makes a huge difference, telling the story makes a huge difference in how people see us, how people perceive us, have a better relationship with us. And like we understand this, but we don't think we have a story. So I'm going to tell you the thing, because I actually was the same boat. Like I felt I don't have a story. I felt I'm just kind of like, I don't have anything to tell. My childhood wasn't an interesting childhood. I didn't have a lot of trauma and stuff like that, okay? But here's one thing. There's a very interesting thing about the brain, that our brain covers up your bad memories, covers up the hardship you have gone through, so it can actually help you to live your life without a lot of problems, without a lot of, kind of feeling that there is no hope in the world, okay? Now, as part of that process, many of us have amazing stories in our heart, and we don't remember them, okay? In fact, what I always tell people, when people tell me I don't have a story, I say probably your story is too painful that you don't even want to tell it to yourself. Probably your story is too painful that you don't even want to tell it to yourself, okay? For example, when I was getting started, I was thinking that I don't have a story. I don't have a story. I'm starting from scratch, and I didn't have an interesting childhood and anything. But I was at a seminar, and we're given a very interesting task. They asked us at the seminar to write our life story from anything and everything we remember from our childhood. And we started writing our life story. Anything and everything we could remember from our childhood. I went from one story to the next, to the next. They gave us an hour. And then after the hour, I was only 3 years old. I had so many stuff happen in my life from before I was born all the way to I was 3 years old, that although I write really, really fast, within an hour, I could only get to me being 3 years old. And at that moment, I looked back and I realized what a weird, crappy, hard life I've lived that I'd never thought about. So I went home and I continued writing my life story. I wrote more and more. And 48 hours later of writing, I got to where I was, but at the point I was 27 years old. It took me 48 hours of writing to figure out all of my stories till I was 27 years old. And that showed me that every single one of us has a ton of stories. We have a ton of stories at our heart that we don't want to tell ourselves. They're too painful that we want to even tell ourselves. But here's the thing. Many of those stories are stories that inspire people. Many of those stories are stories that empower people. You probably have heard my TEDx talk, the story of how I ended up on my deathbed. The story of my immigration, how I almost became homeless. And I can tell you, many of those stories have inspired so many people to give them hope, to give them, understanding that you can be a successful entrepreneur, even though you have gone through lots of health issues, lots of other issues, but you can still become successful, okay? So here's the thing. I want you to go ahead and write down your life story, anything and everything that you remember. Don't judge yourself that you don't have a story, because I know for the fact that you have a story. Write it down. Write everything and anything that you can remember. And while you're writing, you will figure out why you've been doing certain things in your life and how they're going to impact your business and your life. Let's get started from there, take it from there. And as you write your story, you can actually connect different messages to different stories that you have. There is a very kind of a detailed training on this. We're not going to have time to go through this right now within this blog. That's part of my Speakers Marketing Mastery course. That's like a 1.5 hour, 2 hours training on its own. And we also do a 3-day event called Message Mastery as part of my Inspirational Speakers Masterclass for this. So it's just kind of, it's a bigger work. It's like a lot of internal work, but the beginning of it starts from you writing your life story. So go ahead on your calendar and book a time to write your life story, whatever and anything and everything that you remember, and let's begin from there. Okay, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you haven't downloaded the book on how to build a successful public speaking business from imanagai.com, go to imanagai.com, download our book, watch that training, and join us at our programs, and let us help you to build a successful business. If you're listening to our podcast, make sure that you're subscribed to the podcast so you can hear more episodes from this program. Looking forward to seeing you in one of our other episodes.